Hello, everybody. This is Beef and the Deuce podcast coming to you on YouTube. Check us out, Beef and the Deuce podcast. Subscribe and like if you like. Also, check us out on X, Twitter. Beef's got that rocking hard. Lots of good stuff there. Beef, how's life?
Sore as you well know.
All right. Well,
Golf season's in full swing, so we are.
That's a good, no pun intended.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we are ready. We are getting prepped for that Florida golf, and we'll see if we can do it just a little bit better than yesterday. We'll get there.
So it's a good sore. It's a good sore.
It's a beautiful sore. Nothing that a little Busch Light or a little Miller Light can't fix.
Have you had the apple yet?
Oh, it's amazing.
Is it really?
Busch Light apple's so good.
Oh, good.
That needs to be on your to buy list.
Do they have the peach still, or is that just once from last year?
I want to say peach. It depends.
Okay.
My guess is apple's going to be the flavor, and then maybe, just maybe, they'll bring the peach back, because if they do, you already know that will be in both of our fridges quickly.
Yeah. Cube of peach, cube of apple. Oh yeah.
Oh, it's so. But the Busch apple's good. It is.
Okay.
It's not as. I don't know if smooth is the right word, but like that Busch peach, as you know, just goes down like water.
Yeah. Too easy.
And yeah, you have 6 of them. You thought you had 2.
Yeah. Yeah.
The apple, you can kind of, like when it's cold, you can kind of sip it a little bit. It's it's good.
All right. Okay. All right, we're going to talk. I found someone put out a Big Ten preseason football power ranking. So I thought we could debate that. And then maybe if we have time, we can look at Oregon. Interesting schedule with Oregon. So anyway, you want to go bottom to top or top to bottom on this power ranking?
Have you surprised me?
All right. Well, there's no surprise on this one. It's OSU at number 1 power ranking. We've talked about,
as it should be.
Yeah, we've talked about OSU, and we will talk in the future. Nothing much more to say than, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's very. I guess in our opinion, it's self-explanatory.
But Klatt would not agree. He would say Penn. Now he has Penn State at 2. Klatt has Penn State as the number 1 team in the country.
And this is one of the very few times I think that.
Yeah.
I would safely assume we think Penn State is not number 1 and that Joe Klatt is wrong.
Yeah. Well, if they are, they've got to prove it. That's all.
James Franklin hasn't proven it in the duration of time he's had at Penn State. So
yeah. If it is, fine. You got to prove it.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%.
Yeah. So it's OSU, Penn State, and then he has Illinois at 3.
Oh, now you got to talk to me, Mr. Bielema fan. What do you think?
Well, they were 10-3 last year. I would have probably said somewhere in the 5 range, but okay. They were 10-3 last year. Luke Altmaier is an excellent quarterback. They have 18 starters returning. That's pretty good. It's Illinois. He has Illinois, Oregon, and Michigan. I can't.
Interesting.
Well, I've got to put Oregon over Illinois just because. Again, prove it to me. I like Illinois. I like Illinois, but prove it to me, man. And they're coming close, but I don't think so.
Do you think the returning of so many starters is
good?
Is probably the reason behind that, and Oregon lost
a lot,
a decent amount.
Yeah, and they've got a brand new quarterback. Oregon has a brand new quarterback. So I think returning starters and Altmaier's good. So I think they're good. 3, I don't know. What do you think?
I think it's fair.
It's not
because it's known. The players that they're going to have, they're known. They have proven themselves.
Yeah.
But
gotta prove it.
The Oregon culture is is pretty solid with Dan Lanning.
Yeah, it's a winning culture.
Yes. It's you don't typically fall off from being the number one overall football team from last year and just fall off the face of the earth. You typically have depth.
Yeah.
And I think Dan Lanning and his latest recruiting classes are pretty okay.
Yeah, the new
to
quarterback.
Say the least.
Yeah, the new quarterback they have, it seems to be pretty good.
Yeah, and again, you're coming from a winning culture.
Right. Yeah.
Illinois had one good season.
Right. But
and the majority of that good season was towards the end, so the momentum could possibly carry over, depending.
Yeah.
I would say Oregon 3.
Yeah, I would say 3.
I would say Oregon 3.
What about
you could almost argue Michigan 4.
And then Illinois?
And then Illinois. You could argue it.
Okay, argue that then. I would say Oregon, Illinois, Michigan. But go ahead. Argue that Michigan's over Illinois. Michigan was 8-5. They have a new quarterback, Bryce Underwood, highly touted. But Illinois is 10-3, 18 starters returning. Luke Altmaier. Yeah, I would go Illinois over Michigan. But again, prove it to me. So what's your case? Make your case for Michigan then.
As much as I really don't want to talk about,
I know you don't.
about these turds.
Okay.
I feel like the end of their season was pretty good. As much as I hate to admit it, they played well. They played really well towards the end. Obviously, beat our boys.
Yeah.
And then bowl season, if I'm not mistaken, they won their bowl game.
They crushed Alabama.
Yeah, if I'm not mistaken.
So embarrassed Alabama, yeah.
So that alone, with a team that not even arguably, that team sucked. The team was terrible.
Right.
And yet they're still winning game, and they crushed Bama with the majority of their starters.
Yep.
Just crushed them, embarrassed them.
Yeah. And
so I would argue that those wins against the Buckeyes and against Bama are a lot stronger than Illinois' towards the end of the season.
Okay. All right.
Now again, I hate talking about them in a positive manner.
Right.
But those wins are impressive. They're very, very good marquee wins. Yeah. They lost a handful in the draft.
Yeah.
Rookie quarterback's going to be a big learning curve, but again, highly touted.
And it's only up. He really can only. I mean, compared to who he's replacing, it's like, come on.
You go from a non quarterback to a legit quarterback.
Yeah. I mean, it almost has to go up, their quarterback play.
Yep, and you're going to have what Michigan's never not had in a good running attack. They're going to have a good rushing attack. Offensive line is notoriously pretty solid.
Yeah.
And Coach Moore is not a bad coach.
Speaking of him, he's going to be suspended for at least 2 games.
Yep.
You don't think that matters at all?
No, because the games are just trash. They're just absolute garbage.
But more could be coming down the pike as far as...
I hope so.
Well,
I hope.
Yeah. So let's say he gets... Okay, he's guaranteed 2 because they're self-suspending. Let's say he gets 2 more after those 2. In other words, the first 2 games of the season... If they suspend him for those 2 games, then that's garbage.
Yeah.
But
it's just weird. Like, the whole thing is just so damn weird. But I'm hoping that the NCAA or the Big Ten or whoever is going to ultimately make this decision just crushes them. Yeah, just crush them. Yeah. Just absolutely obliterate them. Because it's deserved. It's 100% deserved. You're admitting to the cheating scandal, or you have admitted it without saying that you did it,
Right.
in a way to where you can almost have like plausible deniability in a sense.
Right. Well, this is technically not the cheating. Well, it's part of the cheating scandal, but it's not for. It's for him deleting emails. That's all this is about. This is for deleting emails. Those they're not saying he did it or the other fellow did it.
He just played a factor.
Yeah, he was a
in
part
something.
of. He was a part of the cover up.
Which is it's just so slimy. Like the whole thing sucks, but
yeah, there it is.
Yeah, that would change my rankings a little bit depending on when, if at all, there are additional games added on to the suspension.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I got you. Okay, so we're going OSU, Penn State, Oregon, Michigan, Illinois. Top five.
I think that's pretty solid.
Okay. And I would suggest at this point it's kind of like whatever. He's got Iowa at 6, 8-5, new quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
New quarterback.
Hopefully a legitimate quarterback.
Yeah. Apparently a pretty good quarterback. So, 8-5 last year. They seem to, they know how to defend, they know how to run, and let's see if they can pass, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So are you good with Iowa? So they were 8-5 last year. Are you good with them at 6? I kind of am.
Yeah. Solely on that defense alone. If nothing else progresses, you can always bet on really good defense. Mm-hmm. And I feel like Iowa's had a good defense for as long as I've been alive.
Mm-hmm.
So
that's right.
I feel like they've been pretty all right.
Okay. So you're good at 6 for Iowa.
Yep.
Now the next 3 on this guy's list is odd to me. Okay, he's got Nebraska at 7, USC at 8, and Indiana at 9.
I wonder what the hype is with Nebraska.
Yeah, I don't know. Couldn't really find anything other than, they've got their returning quarterback.
Old Dylan Ravioli himself.
Yeah. So if they can, throw less interceptions and...
I'm not impressed with him. Like, truly. I don't think I believe in the initial hype of him at all.
But don't you think the key to his success is not throwing interceptions? He doesn't have to be great. He just has to not screw it up.
I think the key to his potential success is stop trying to be Patrick Mahomes 2.0. just be your own person.
Yeah.
Unless that's the media just blowing up nothing, which I'm sure that has a lot to do with it. Mm-hmm. But it's all the little flashiness pregame. It's the you're wanting to dress up like Patrick Mahomes and try to look like him, and play like him. Like, no, man,
no,
you're not anywhere close.
Yeah, get real.
You're not even in that dude's ballpark.
No, maybe he thought it was Halloween and he could dress up as Patrick. Maybe it was Halloween.
Yeah, just forever trying to be him.
Yeah, trick or treat.
Yeah, but then again, you kind of go with Nebraska as a team. They're not notoriously known for having premier receivers.
Right. Well,
they're known for a solid rushing attack, kind of lower scoring offense, if you will. Mm-hmm. And good defense.
How different?
I just don't know.
How different are they schematically or theme-wise from Iowa? It seems very similar.
They're similar
in nature.
They're similar.
But I think
I would say similar, but there's more hype behind Nebraska quarterbacks, if you will, as a whole, rather than anyone that watches Big Ten football knows Iowa hasn't had a good quarterback since maybe Cade pre-injury, where he was actually slinging for a decent amount.
Yeah. However, Iowa's in the last how many years they've admittedly had better teams than Nebraska. So.
Oh yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely.
So okay, Nebraska. To me, Indiana at 9 is odd. Then he had USC at 8. They were 7. Nebraska was 7-6 last year. USC squeaked into the bowl. They were 7-6.
Mm-hmm.
They lost a huge amount of people to the portal. And is Lincoln Riley on the hot seat? Is it kind of burning his butt here?
Yeah, I would say that seat for him is uncomfortable.
Uncomfortable, yeah.
It is. You're approaching probably third-degree burns.
Yeah.
This is what I'm thinking. But it's so tough too because USC still just gets an insane amount of high quality recruits.
Yeah.
But it's also tough too because anybody that again watches football knows USC is a well-known university throughout the entire country for football.
Oh yeah.
Very, very rich history. Lots of money. Whole lot of money. But I feel like a lot of the downfall, which is probably obvious to say, is the incapability of Lincoln Riley. It's almost like wherever he goes, the offenses are either very good or just very average, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's no defense, regardless of personnel changes or whatever. There's just no defense. And last year was a spitting image of just piss poor football. And they like you said, they squeaked into a bowl game somehow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So yeah, it's kind of do or die for him. I feel like. I mean, definitely tell me if I'm wrong, but I have not been impressed with him during his tenure there.
No, not at all. Yeah, I think he's. This is just what, third year, going into third or fourth.
Yeah, give or take a year or two.
Yeah, he's got to produce. What is interesting is like UCLA. They're really bad on NIL, getting money. They don't have a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And USC is good at getting at NIL, but really those two teams don't even compare to OSU and Michigan, Penn State.
No, not even close.
I mean those teams just dominate money-wise. And I assume that Wisconsin does well too, and probably Nebraska. They got nothing else to do in Nebraska, right? But do football.
Yep.
But so people can, they'll say UCLA is nothing compared to the Big Ten, the other teams in the Big Ten, the traditional teams in the Big Ten. So how then are you agreeing that Indiana's at 9 from 11-2?
Yeah, because the team's gone.
Yeah, but he seems to have gotten some pretty good in the portal. Did some okay in the portal.
Yeah, but it's just tough for me to justify a higher ranking when you don't even know who's going to be on the team, or you don't know if them hitting the portal again like they did last season is gonna be beneficial,
right?
Or if it's gonna mesh as well as what Cignetti did last year, which I mean he basically picked up most of James Madison's roster and just plug and played.
Yeah, that was the portal was picking up most of the team. So
hey, you guys come over here.
These will be brand new portal people. He won't really know.
These are entire new personnel from whoever the hell knows.
Yeah.
But I do believe in Cignetti, and I feel like that's going to be obviously a massive factor, but I feel like regardless of who they get, it will work out at some point. I just don't think right away. I think it's going to take some time, and I don't see another kind of Cinderella story, if you will, with Indiana getting into the CFP and making a run.
But wouldn't you also say they were where they were last year? So we got to rate them. I mean, I think they're better than Nebraska. I just, I think that they've got to, prove to me that they're not that good, because they were pretty good, right? 11-2.
Yeah, I mean, I like the argument of flip-flopping Indiana and Nebraska.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not the biggest fan of Matt Rule. I have not been impressed with anything he's done.
Yeah.
Um,
People like him though, but so yeah.
yeah,
But,
they like him for whatever the reason may be. Maybe because they're leading the charge to cancel spring games or whatever.
I heard that USC has canceled the Notre Dame game. I
Really?
haven't verified that, but yeah, but they're taking that was it Nebraska and Tennessee that canceled?
Goodness.
I'd have to look that one up. But Klatt was talking about that today and how teams are bailing on their marquee out of conference. So I don't know.
That's insane. That's been a rivalry for
Huge
ever.
huge money too. I mean,
Yeah.
it's massive. Anyway, so
That's insane.
you would say Indiana, USC, or would you put then Nebraska? Would you bump? I can't put USC up by Iowa. There's just no way.
No, I like Indiana, USC, Nebraska.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, I think I like that.
All right. And then he's got 8-5 Minnesota. Well, this is the team that you think they can, and then at the end they kind of don't.
Yep, or they come out with one signature marquee win, and then
I mean they're 8-5 last year. I mean that's good.
PJ Fleck is doing. I don't think as well as the Minnesota faithful wanted him to.
Well, yeah.
But at the same time, if you look at it from a bigger, you look at it from a bigger perspective, he's not bad. It's just you're in the hardest
You're in the Big Ten
conference in college football.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you can only do so much, and I think last year kind of proved a little bit that like he's capable. He's obviously capable of coaching good football.
So you think he can?
But it's tough.
So you think he can overachieve with the players he's got, but it's not that good, kind of thing.
Yeah, I feel like he can consistently get them to a bowl game. But it's tough because again, you are a lower middle tier Big Ten football program, and now with you merging with, or you're adding Oregon, USC, UCLA,
Washington.
like these West Coast teams, like that's just additional recruiting that they're going to be stealing. And in addition to, you've got NIL money to worry about, and then obviously newer, bigger head coaches in your conference. That doesn't benefit PJ Fleck at all. So he has to basically deal with recruits that he's personally recruiting that have, committed to him. And then you're diving into the portal, which you're basically getting the leftovers that nobody wants. And you're hoping that kind of meshes well with, your coaching style, your offense, your defense. And you're just kind of banking and betting on yourself to be able to do something with it. When you have the OSUs, the Penn States, the Oregons of the world that are just recruiting the best of the best, getting the best of the best, and then when they dive into the portal, they're getting the best of the best. So it's almost impossible to beat that.
So let me ask you a question that just popped into my ever-shrinking brain here. We're talking about the NIL and getting the best, recruiting the best. I'm going to suggest to you and argue this one that there's probably 5, maybe 6, but definitely 5 Big Ten teams that are at the pinnacle of NIL. We can get the best, and there's probably six SEC teams that are in that same league. So there's anywhere from 11 to 12, throw in Notre Dame, throw in Clemson. Those teams are on a different level than everybody else. And Minnesota would be below that, maybe, and they just can't compete with that top tier of 12, 13, maybe 14 teams. Does that make any sense? It
Oh
seems,
yeah, there's no way, there's nothing for them outside of possibly some sort of like alumni foundation
hmm
that has just an insane amount of money to even come close to these top tier programs, and not all of that money that they get year in and year out.
but also if it's equivalent. So let's say I'm a recruiter and I'm looking at Minnesota and Ohio State,
Mm-hmm.
and the money's equal. I'm going to Ohio State.
100%.
I mean, so the money's important, but I'll go to Tennessee. I'll go to LSU. I'll go to any of the top 5, 6 SEC teams and the top 5 Big Ten teams, just
Mm-hmm.
because it's
Yep, it's the brand. It's the
yeah,
brand.
and it even because you got to imagine that Minnesota is a big school, big state. It's a state
Mm-hmm.
school. It's the main school in the state. They've got to have a decent amount of NIL. Maybe not. I don't know how that. I don't personally know their NIL situation, but they can't be broke.
Mm-hmm.
They can't be like Bowling Green or anything. But
Yeah, in the grand scheme of things, yeah, Bowling Green's broke as hell.
yeah, well,
Now they're going to get more with the addition of Eddie George. I'd be curious to see
do they even do?
how.
Does the MAC even do NIL money? I mean, I suppose they do, right?
I would assume something, or they do some sort
Kind
of,
of a base level or whatever.
yeah, something.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like in order for Minnesota to compete NIL wise, or whatever, they're going to need probably an Indiana like season from
Mm-hmm.
last year. Just you come out of the blue and you get hot at the right time, you make a run, and then that opens up some eyes. And I think that's going to benefit Signetti for years to come because of
Mm-hmm.
recent success. And I think
Playoffs.
Minnesota truly needs,
Yeah.
success quickly so that can, little by little, maybe bump you up a little bit.
So do you think
But it's tough.
teams that are vying for the CFP, the playoffs, those are the marquee teams as well? In other words, the 6 or so.
Hmm.
I mean,
Yeah, I would say so.
if because you have a better chance of getting into the playoffs with Ohio State than you do with Minnesota. It's just the way it is,
Oh,
right?
yeah, it's just a fact. Yeah.
Even Michigan and Penn State. I mean, they get into the playoffs. They're in the mix because even when it was Big Ten East and West, it was
Hmm.
like Minnesota was with like 3 games to go or so, 4 games to go. Boy, Minnesota's in there. They can do this, and and they don't. They're
Hmm.
like by the last game of the season they're out, but they still have a shot with 2, maybe 3 or 4 to go, and then they just don't.
Hmm.
It's just even in the West, the weakest part. It was just like, well, there's always going to be an Iowa,
Yep.
or somebody else in there who's Illinois who's going to win it, and it's like God. But they're always sort of there, but not quite there.
Hmm.
So I don't know.
It's a tough hill to climb, and it's going to be that way for
Quite a while.
probably the foreseeable future.
So do you see them bowl bound again at 8-5 this year?
Yeah, I feel like that's probably the, I guess, the hopeful season-ending record for them.
Mm-hmm. Well, that would be
We'd have to
better.
dive into the schedule and kind of see what they have, but
Right.
they would need a somewhat easy like schedule like in Indiana
Mm-hmm.
or something similar to Illinois last year where it's
Mm-hmm.
you start off undefeated or you go into your first big game undefeated where it's okay, like they're making some noise or they're moving up the top 25,
Mm-hmm.
stuff like that. And then say if they lose that marquee game, they win a couple, games that they're supposed to win,
Right.
and get into that top 3, probably top 4 in the Big Ten, because now with the new CFP ranking system coming out next year,
Yeah.
I'd be curious to see how that kind of changes everything as well.
Yeah. It seems like now let's call it what it is. It's the Big Ten SEC dominated system. They
Mm-hmm.
seem to want 16.
So much, so many teams.
Yeah. Clad had a good show, and he was talking about how he thinks 14 is better than 16. But it took a while to define it all, but it's like, okay. But what he wants to do with that is take the committee out of it. In other words, the Big Ten chooses 4, SEC chooses 4, Big 12 2, ACC 2. Then the off, what do they call it? Not the Power 5.
So like the group of 4 teams.
Group of 4, yeah, like the
Okay.
like
Like a Boise or
yeah,
whatever.
like Boise,
Not
yeah.
Boise, but like not even SMU. Kind of like your Notre Dames, your Independents, whatever.
Yeah,
Okay.
he gives it anyway. That'll be an interesting debate. Yeah.
Interesting.
So then he has. Minnesota was 8-5 last year. USC was 7-6. Nebraska was 7-6, and he has them ranked higher than Minnesota. So you're saying Minnesota takes a step back, or the other two step up? What do you think? That's either way.
Oh man, that's tough.
Mm-hmm.
I would safely assume Nebraska makes a little bit of headway with a more experienced quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
Minnesota's kind of unknown at this point because they had a bunch of older, like 50-year players or, but I would hope USC figures something out. Lincoln Riley figures something out to save his job.
Mm-hmm.
And Signetti's already had proven success in year 1.
Mm-hmm.
You can only assume that that's going to be continued, but not as high.
Yeah.
I would think.
Yeah, but at 11-2, he can't be on any kind of a hot seat for a couple of years, right?
No, God, no. I think he's going to be fine for a while. He's got what 7 plus more years on that initial contract, so he's
good.
He's doing just fine.
So go ahead.
But I'd be interested to see if Minnesota can take a relatively decent leap into maybe getting into a double-digit win season. To maybe have PJ Fleck prove a little bit more of his worth to that program, because I think he's done relatively well coming from being pretty highly looked into from Western Michigan to smack dab into the best conference in college football. And has kind of made a little bit of a stamp and kind of molded that culture and the whole row the boat sort of thing. I feel like he's made solid progress there. It's just, again, it's tough to do anything when you have big brothers up ahead of you just dominating the conference.
Don't you think it's going to be – so they were probably – I don't know what they were in the conference, but – if they were 8-5, they made a bowl game. But if they were 7-5 in the conference, it's going to be hard for them to get another 3 wins, don't you think? Just really hard.
Yeah, I think so. It's going to be
because of who
else
is
be tough.
Yeah, if you've got at least 5 teams that are clearly better, they're just going to beat you down, right?
Yep. Oh yeah, they're going to take your lunch money.
Yeah. Okay. Is Luke Fickell on the hot seat? Wisconsin at 11. They were 5-7 last year. He's in his 3rd year.
Yeah, I would.
Not
as much as I would hate to admit it, I think it's very uncomfortable. Very uncomfortable because they gave him a bunch of money up front.
Yeah.
A ton of money up front.
Yeah.
They gave him like a little 1-year extension thingy, and there just hasn't been a ton of success. Again, he's in the same boat as PJ Flex of the world, where it's you have Big Brother ahead of you. The schedules are relatively tough too.
Mm-hmm.
So they're losing the games they're supposed to lose, but then they're also losing games that they shouldn't be losing by too close of margins, which has been his Achilles heel. Is these close games where they're in it, or like the Oregon game last year.
Yeah,
they had that game won, and then they just absolutely blew it. So I don't know if that's a culture thing. I don't know if that's a coaching thing, or if it's a mixture of both. But it's not really helping his case, and he's got to fix something quick, or he's gonna be gonzo.
So has he had a winning season at Wisconsin? Wasn't last year.
Oh man, it's a good question.
Anyway,
we'd have to look at it. I'm not entirely.
Yeah, didn't go to a bowl at 5-7. So
yeah, I was gonna say I can't truly think of any, I guess, successful season. I know that sounds bad, but I don't think he's made much headway in his tenure there.
Yeah, he's sort of stalling out kind of here at 5-7.
Yeah, which is definitely not something I expected. I at least thought you might have like a one double-digit win season, but it hasn't been fun for old Ficky boy.
So is he in the same boat as Fleck in Minnesota? How do you compete with the big boys for the players?
I feel like
he should be able to get. So that's Wisconsin.
Yeah, I feel like Fickle would have a better chance at recruiting better players in general, just because I feel like Wisconsin has had better success than Minnesota.
Yeah.
I mean, it wasn't terribly long ago. Wisconsin was in the Big Ten national championship, or not national championship, but the Big Ten championship game.
Right. And Fickle had Cincinnati in the playoffs, right?
Yeah, and Fickle did what Fickle did with Cincinnati. Granted, they got destroyed, but
hey, made it in.
But they made it. So, yeah, I feel like I would, if I was a player, I would much rather go to Wisconsin. So
yeah.
He needs to figure something out, and I don't know what exactly he can do to fix it, because the Big Ten is so tough now. Outside of just winning the games that he's supposed to win, and maybe get a big upset win, big marquee win or something to kind of keep. Kind of keep him in the good races of the big wigs at Wisconsin, but I don't know. It's just weird.
When you look at the teams that were in the Big Ten West when it was the two different divisions, they're all here at about 8-5, 5-7, 7-6, 8-5, and it seems like, and Illinois would have a better record, but it seems like they were all trying to compete to win the division against each other. And the East teams got better, a lot better, and then the West Coast came in, and it just threw their whole worldview in the trash can, because now they've got. It's not a division. It's just the top two teams. And I'm sorry, they're never going to get there. Right?
Nope. It's going to be this way probably for the rest of the Big Ten's time. Because even prior to the merger, your big dogs for recruiting and for overall success, Ohio State. Right. Penn State's made a run in the last decade. Michigan's always kind of been hanging around. They just won a national championship.
Yeah, they just won. Yeah, that's impressive.
USC, hot and cold, depending on what year it is.
And Washington was pretty good.
Yeah, Washington was just in a national championship game.
Yeah. So
Oregon was the #1 overall team in the country last year.
Yeah. So
I mean, hell.
So how do they? Well, maybe that's a new coaching setup, but it's just like, you know what I mean? They're just sort of stuck in that mentality, and they're just losing ground. Am I out of my mind?
I mean, everyone's kind of treading water little by little, and it's maybe the coaching change is what they need. Somewhere like Indiana, for example, you get Cignetti, boom.
Yeah. But that's almost
Oregon had Chip Kelly for a while, so they did well with Chip Kelly. Dan Lanning comes in here recently and has done his thing. So Minnesota, kind of similar situation. They weren't really relevant at all. PJ Fleck comes in. They have an 8-win season. And Luke Fickell's had a 7-win season, and then like you say, he was 5 and whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not good enough. But if Wisconsin likes him, they may stick him, have him stick around for a little bit. But going under 500 is not ideal for a long coaching tenure. So,
but what would a new coach do for Wisconsin or Minnesota? So you get a new coach. Is it really better than Luke Fickell? I don't know if there's one technically better, but is the new coach going to take them over the hump here? I don't know.
I feel like it almost just gives a little, kind of like a little oomph, if you will. Like it's, hey, we're tired of this football culture. We want to be a winning program, and it's showing some sort of initiative to fix what's wrong. And at least it gives some sort of hype to the fan base, to the players that are currently on the roster, the staff that's sticking around. It kind of admits failure to an extent, but it also shows that you don't want to fail. And you believe this is the next step to some sort of success direction.
But isn't success for them going to be better players?
I feel like it's a lot. It's obviously wins, and wins comes into recruiting. That comes into
getting
just
better players.
never leaving the transfer portal, basically.
Yeah.
And also, I think a lot of it is retention of players. If you're a receiver in Wisconsin, you're getting shit playing time, or you're starting and your quarterbacks are just absolute trash. And you're not getting the ball. You're not proving your worth basically in your eyes. Then you just transfer because these teams are trash. So they need to establish some sort of winning culture as well to retain the players that you want to retain, or they're going to go to Ohio State, Alabama, Texas, winning programs, and then boom. So similar to Will Howard, for example, does well at Kansas State. Does the thing Kansas State does. More better than average. Bowl appearances.
They're always somewhere.
They were always somewhere. Then he transfers over to Ohio State. Well, one, because he had to play another year.
Right.
But look what happens. Boom, national championship. It's and a lot of it has to do with the player, but then a lot of it has to do as well with the program. Right. Ohio State has a winning culture. Has had a winning culture forever.
Right. Yeah.
And so and Wisconsin really hasn't. So it's the hill is very steep. But it's tough. It's very tough.
Yeah. When you look at the culture of Ohio State football, its ability to have winning records consistently is pretty scary good. I mean, from Woody Hayes, Paul Brown, from Paul Brown on, I think there were maybe only 2 or 3 seasons where they didn't have a winning record. That's in 1942.
Yeah, it's wild.
It's crazy.
Absolutely insane.
Anyway, and then national champ. Anyway, so Michigan State, they were 5-7 last year. And they kind of sucked.
Mm-hmm.
Get a new quarterback, Aiden Childs, who is touted as pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
But again, are they mixed in with Wisconsin and Minnesota and Nebraska?
Yeah, I would say so. It's a lot of it. You're losing recruiting players and transfer portal players to the upper echelon of the Big Ten or the SEC.
Mm-hmm.
So they're banking on the leftovers of the portal, basically, or some of these like FCS players that are going into the FBS,
right?
And trying to possibly find a diamond in the rough, and say you do, but they're not the 4 or 5 star guys they're going up against.
Right.
So they're constantly treading water. So I mean, there's a little bit of promise for the offensive side of the ball for them.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like you said, a highly touted quarterback, end of the season well.
Mm-hmm.
But the team all around is just not very good.
Mm-hmm.
So you can't really do much with a team that's not good, obviously.
Right.
So yeah, I would lump them in with the Wisconsins for sure.
Okay. So that's 12. You're fine with 12. I mean, they're all sort of down there. 13. He has Washington. They were 6-7 last year. Is the coach is what? Jed Fish? Is he second year? Is he on a hot seat? I mean, year 2 probably not, but
I would say if it's just as bad, then possibly. If they make a bowl this year, that's obviously a big W. But
right. Well, they made a bowl and then they lost it. So
yeah. So I would say if you can at least make a bowl game, you're okay.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, you were just in a national championship game a couple of years ago. Your fans are going to expect something.
Right.
Your top dogs are going to expect something. Now, granted, most of their coaching staff from that national championship appearance jumped ship.
Right.
Rightfully so.
Mm-hmm.
So you're banking on a coaching staff brand spanking new to somehow get together a winning culture in a year. It's tough. So I feel like a couple more years, maybe something changes.
Mm-hmm.
But again, you're in the Big Ten now. This is big boy football, and it is a very tough hill to climb and try to, especially trying to gain some sort of traction in the conference, let alone trying to establish a winning culture with a Big Ten schedule. It's almost impossible if you're that low.
Yeah. I mean, it seems like if this new playoff system works out and the Big Ten gets 4 and the SEC gets 4 automatics, you think, well, that's a lot of teams. Not really. Not in these conferences.
Now, the conferences are huge now.
Well, yeah,
so you're getting,
they're 18
what, a quarter?
18
a quarter
and 16.
of your...
Yeah. So...
Yes, a quarter, if not less than a quarter of your conference gets in.
Yeah.
Those odds are tough.
Yeah, very tough. Yeah. Especially if you think of perennials like Ohio State, Michigan, Penn State, Oregon. Oh my gosh, there's 4 teams right there.
You're hoping that one of those teams falls off, or that your schedule is easier than theirs.
And you're the one rising star that breaks through the cloud barrier, right?
Yep. It's not. I would not want to be one of those bottom, middle tier to lower tier teams.
Yeah. Number 14, Rutgers. They were 7-6 last year. Who's the coach that used to be the coach at Ohio State? The offensive coordinator.
Oh, you're talking about Shiano?
Yeah. I mean, they love him there, but he's improved it, but then again seems to have come up against a barrier, though. You can improve it that much, but not much more than that.
Yeah, and then you lose your top players from last season to the draft. So you're having to rebuild a running attack. You're having to rebuild a little bit of quarterback play, some defense. it's any rebuild for any of these teams in the Big Ten is going to be tough.
Yeah.
Now they're fortunate enough that Shiano is a hell of a coach.
Yeah.
And can figure out a way to at least make these players serviceable to make some sort of competitive game.
Yeah, you sort of made them bowl eligible consistently.
So I feel like that alone is a win for the program.
But that's not going to last so long, and they want more, right?
Exactly, which I don't know if they're ever going to get. But I feel like for the power rankings, that's fair.
Okay,
that's
so
definitely fair.
14, and UCLA at 15.
That's fair.
Yeah, they were 5-7. They finished well last year, but it's UCLA, right?
Yeah, and they have Nico, so we'll see what Nico does from good old Tennessee Orange. So I'd be curious with that whole aspect.
Yeah.
But outside of that, it's kind of a dumpster fire over there.
Yeah. Number 16, Maryland.
Your guys.
Man, they were 4-8. Lockley's got to be on the hot seat. I don't know. What do you think?
Yes, I think that whole coaching staff needs to be on the hot seat.
They were kind of hot, and then they've kind of not so hot, right?
Yep, that's how they always are. I feel like they come on strong a little bit, and there's a little bit of hype, and then they just see you later.
So is it their quarterback transferred to Wisconsin, or the other way around?
Something like that.
Yeah.
One of those. I can't exactly remember which.
Okay, so we're good with 15, whatever.
Yeah.
Well, okay, Northwestern.
Hey, they're getting a new stadium, okay?
Yeah, good.
That's about all they got.
They got a guy. They got a new quarterback out of the portal. I don't know. They were 4-8 last year. Good luck. And then Purdue 1-11. Yeah.
They're just hoping for a win.
But didn't they just flush their coaching staff? Don't they have a brand new coaching staff?
Oh yeah, there's no way you keep a coaching staff that gives you one win.
Yeah,
it's embarrassing.
Yeah, I mean they're like there's bad and then there's Purdue, right?
Yeah, they're just a field of their own, just picking out dandelions in the outfield.
Yeah.
But it's bad. But yeah, I mean, with a new coaching staff, you would hope that it gets at least double your win total. I feel like would be great.
2-10, okay.
just get 2 wins. Start small.
We're skyrocketing, right? Yeah.
Oh yeah, we're out here crushing it. But yeah, that's fair. I mean, I don't see another team worse than Purdue. So that is 100% fair.
Okay. Well, you want to call it a podcast on that one?
Yeah. We'll dive into some. We should dive into some of the schedules and kind of see what we're looking at.
Trying to look at Oregon coming up here. They got an interesting schedule because they're playing some teams.
Yeah, as they should be if they want to prove they're one of the best. You gotta schedule some good teams, similar to what our Buckeyes are doing.
Yep. Okay. Well, we'll talk to everybody soon. Bye.